I'm sorry, Susie. I tried my best, but...
You couldn't get it because you're not Santa Claus, that's why. You're just a nice old man with whiskers, like my mother said. And I shouldn't have believed you.
Wow, that hurt. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new, welcome. Today we are going to be watching Miracle on 34th Street. What do I know about this film? Absolutely nothing. I've never even heard of this film. I was just kind of searching for movies that we could do for the holiday season, for Christmas, and for that stuff, but I've never actually heard of this movie. So I'm kind of eager to see what it's about. I know absolutely nothing. And I mean that I know nothing. I didn't even know this movie existed. I didn't even know the name of the movie. Basically, this is just a pick out of thin air. I've never heard of this movie. Unlike my last reaction where I did It's a Wonderful Life. At least I knew something about that. I heard the title, you know. This one I have no idea what it's about. So come and join me for Miracle on 34th Street. This should be interesting because, like I said, I know nothing about it. Okay, he was setting it up. I thought maybe he was sleeping there or something.
You're making a mistake with the reindeer. Open the door.
Does he own the place?
I'm sorry, the store isn't open today. And
I don't want to buy anything, but I wanted to tell you you're making a rather serious mistake.
Oh, is it not the right order? Yeah, it's not in the right order.
Dasho should be on my right-hand side. You seem to have got slightly mixed up with this whip of yours. Allow me, will you? Don't mind if I show you, eh?
No, sir.
Now then. See, it's all in the wrist, just like throwing a ball.
It's just like throwing a ball.
But I refuse to have you malign me in this fashion.
He takes his job way too seriously a little bit, I think. Or not his job, rather, but his Christmas too seriously. Takes Christmas way too seriously.
Your Santa Claus is intoxicated.
Oh, no!
Yes, it's disgraceful.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle.
Stop that. What do you mean by drinking? You know it's not
The
allowed.
man's cold. A man's got to do something to keep warm.
He's gonna have to fill in because he's too plastered to do anything.
Could you be Santa Claus? Have you had any experience?
There you go.
I am not in the habit of substituting for spurious Santa Clauses. No.
Oh, please.
No, the children mustn't be disappointed. All right, I'll do it.
Oh, good. Thank you. Get that costume.
So we're gonna rip it off of him. It's not like we have an extra one in case it rips or something for that guy.
It's the best we've ever had. He didn't need any padding.
What?
Padding. He didn't need any padding.
Oh.
Padding.
Susan.
Still not getting rid of that music. It's muffled though. I just say that because the music's been very loud and very in your face kind of a thing.
Where's Susan? She's watching the parade.
Looks like they're having a little trouble with the baseball player. He certainly is a giant, isn't he?
Not really. There are no giants, Mr. Daly.
Well, maybe not now, Susie, but in olden days there were a lot of...
She's like, nope, I don't believe.
Jack and the Beanstalk.
I never heard of that.
It's a fairy tale.
Oh, one of those.
Oh, your mother and father must have told you a fairy tale.
Yeah, how could you not do that one?
You see, my father and mother were divorced when I was a baby.
Well, that's kind of sad.
Susie's told me quite a lot about you. I'm Fred Daly.
Yes, I know. Susan's told me quite a lot about you, too. And I want to thank you for being so kind to Susan.
I must confess it's part of a deep-dyed plot. I read someplace that the surest way to meet the mother is to be kind to the child.
What a horrible trick.
It worked.
Yeah, that's true, it did work.
Oh, Santa Claus!
This one was a last-minute substitute. The one I hired, I fired.
Why?
Because he was drunk off his ass.
You see, she doesn't believe in Santa Claus either.
She didn't believe in a lot of things that she should at that age.
I think we should be realistic and completely truthful with our children and not have them growing up believing in a lot of legends and myths like Santa Claus, for example.
Mother, I was thinking, we've got such a big turkey for dinner, and there are only two of us. Couldn't we invite Mr. Gailey?
Quite honest and truthful with the child. I must admit I haven't any other plans.
He doesn't want to impose. I get it. It's kind of a strange situation.
Didn't I ask all right, Mr. Gailey?
That all depends.
Dinner's at 3.
You worked.
Yes.
They had plans, or they had something to. They set this up. Did Macy's do like a sponsorship for this movie, or paid for advertising? I guess in this movie. I forget the actual term at the moment. It's kind of like what Subway did with Happy Gilmore.
Like Santa Claus over at the wine near our block, see?
You enjoy impersonating me. Why?
When I give packages to little kids, I like to watch their faces get that Christmas look all of a sudden. It makes me feel kind of good and important.
Before you go up on the floor, I just want to give you a few tips on how to be a good Santa Claus.
Go right ahead.
I'm surprised by that.
Now, you'll find that a great many children will be undecided as to what they want for Christmas. When that happens, you immediately suggest one of these items. You understand?
I certainly do.
That's not good. He's not happy with that.
Imagine making a child take something it doesn't want just because he bought too many of the wrong toys.
Very, very true.
Don't care what Christmas stands for. Just make a buck, make a buck.
What do you want for Christmas, Peter?
I want a fire engine just like the big ones, only smaller.
Macy's ain't got any. Nobody's got any.
Well, Peter, I can tell you're a good boy. You'll get your fire engine.
Mama wants to thank Santa Claus, too.
Uh-oh. This is not going to be good.
Don't you understand English? I tell you, Macy's ain't got any. Nobody's got any.
You can get those fire engines at Schoenfeld's on Lexington Avenue. Oh, I keep track of the toy market pretty closely. Does that surprise you, sir?
Surprise me. Macy's sending people to other stores. You kidding me?
Well, the only important thing is to make the children happy.
I like his response to her criticism and her. I like that entire scene right there. I'd actually have to stop the movie to tell you guys and break down that scene why I actually like that movie. It's worth watching again, actually.
Now, we've got skates, and they're very good, too, but they're not quite good enough. You go to Gimbel's. They'll have exactly what you're looking for, I'm sure.
I want to congratulate you and Macy's. Imagine sending people to other stores. Big outfit like Macy's, putting the spirit of Christmas ahead of the commercial. It's wonderful. Well, I'll tell you, I never done much shopping here before, but I'll tell you one thing. From now on, I'm going to be a regular Macy customer.
Okay, how does that translate into that? And it's only because of him. I know how it translates, but just humor me for a second.
The point is, will Mr. Macy think so?
Thought as long as we're in the store, you might as well say hello to Santa Claus.
Why?
Because when you talk to him, you might feel differently about him.
Wow. Giving him the stink eye. She's giving him the stink eye.
Well, young lady, what's your name?
Susan Walker, what's yours? You see, my mother's Mrs. Walker, the lady who hired you. But I must say you're the best looking one I've ever seen.
Really?
Your beard doesn't have one of those things that goes over your ears.
Well, that's because it's real. Oh, go ahead. Pull it.
I really love her expressions. I really love her expressions. Man.
What would you like me to bring you for Christmas?
Nothing, thank you. Whatever I want, my mother will get for me. If it's sensible and doesn't cost too much, of course.
I shouldn't have brought Susie to see Santa Claus, huh?
I tell her Santa Claus is a myth, and you bring her down here, and she sees hundreds of gullible children, meets a very convincing old man with real whiskers. This sets up a very harmful mental conflict within her. What is she going to think? Whom is she going to believe?
Well, here's the thing. She's going to find out one way or the other at some point in her life. So I don't really see the harm in it.
I must ask you to respect my wishes regarding Susan. She's my responsibility, and I must bring her up as I see fit.
Okay.
So I was talking about part of that, but now we get the sense that the mother is the reason why she doesn't want Susan to believe in Santa Claus is because something happened to her that made her not believe in Santa Claus either. Something terrible.
Doesn't speak English. She's Dutch. She just came over. But when she saw you in the parade yesterday, she said you were Santa Claus, as she calls you, and you could talk to her.
Natuurlijk. Zeg maar wat je zou willen hebben van Sinterklaas.
Niks. Ik heb van alles. Ik wil alleen...
Yeah, it would be nice to know what they're saying.
Dank je, Sinterklaas, ja.
Would you please tell her that you're not really Santa Claus? That there actually is no such person?
Well, I'm sorry to disagree with you, Mrs. Walker, but not only is there such a person, but here I am to prove it.
May I have this gentleman's employment card, please?
Yes, Mrs. Walker.
This dress is very cute. Where did you get such a lovely outfit?
Here at Macy's, we get 10% off.
Now, about your school, what's the name of your teacher?
Mrs. Haney.
Mrs. Haney.
Doesn't he already know all this information from thinking of, the song? He's got a list and checking it twice. He knows if you've been naughty. He knows if you've been nice.
Tuesday, Chester Richards.
The Santa Claus that we had 2 years ago is back in town, and I feel that we owe it to him.
Have I done something wrong?
Oh, no. Yes.
Mr. Macy wants to see you immediately.
I've just been telling these gentlemen of the new policy you and Mr. Shellhammer initiated. I can't say that I approve of your not consulting the advertising department first, but in the face of this tremendous response on the part of the public, I can't be angry with you.
Yeah, he probably heard about what she had done earlier. Oh, it was not her, it was Santa Claus.
From now on, not only will our Santa Claus continue in this manner, but I want every salesperson in this store to do precisely the same thing. If we haven't got exactly what the customer wants, we'll send him where he can get it. Be known as the helpful store, the friendly store, the store with a heart, the store that places public service ahead of profit.
But she didn't do that. He did. Santa Claus did it.
I fired him.
Yeah, you did. You did. But you did tell him to wait in the office.
We just have to hire somebody else and have him do the same thing.
No. You heard what Mr. Macy said. We've got to keep him.
But what if he should have a sudden fit or something? Could have Mr. Sawyer talked to him.
Of course. He's a psychologist. That's what he's paid for, to examine employees.
For the past 50 years or so, I've been getting more and more worried about Christmas. Oh, Christmas isn't just a day. It's a frame of mind. And that's what's been changing.
First thing in the morning, would you report to Mr. Sawyer's office?
Sawyer, a mental examination?
Yes.
How many days in the week?
7.
Muscular coordination test. Who was the vice president under John Quincy Adams?
I have no idea.
Daniel D. Tompkins, and I'll bet sure Mr. Sawyer doesn't know that.
Yeah. I would have no idea.
How many days in the week?
7.
Who was the first president of the United States?
George Washington.
How much 3 times 5?
Oh, you asked me that before. You're
15.
How many fingers do you see?
3. Oh, you bite your nails, too. You know, sometimes the cause of nervous habits like yours is not obvious. No. Often they're the result of an insecurity. Are you happy at home, Mr. Sawyer?
That will be all, Mr. Cringle. And it may interest you to know that I've been happily married for 26 years.
Yeah, I doubt that. At least for her part of it. He might believe that, but maybe not. Maybe she doesn't.
Agnes, how many times have I told you not to bother me at the office? No, not a penny. I give you a liberal allowance, and it's up to you to run the house on it. If that fat, stupid brother of yours would get a job, you wouldn't have to be pestering me all the time. After giving this man a comprehensive examination, it's my considered opinion he should be dismissed immediately.
He failed to pass the examination?
No.
Yes.
He didn't answer the questions correctly?
Oh, well, yes, he did, but there was complete lack of concentration. He kept changing the subject. He was even questioning me.
Oh, I don't agree, Mr. Sawyer. People are only institutionalized to prevent them from harming themselves or other people. Why, there are thousands of people walking around with similar delusions, living perfectly normal lives in every other respect.
When a fixed delusion is challenged, the deluded is apt to become violent.
If you tell Chris there is no Santa Claus, I grant you he'll argue the point, but he'll not become violent. Well, I know Chris always carries a cane, but surely you're not implying he'd use the cane as a weapon.
But you asked for my opinion, and I've given it to you. So when he exhibits his latent maniacal tendencies, which I assure you he will, please realize the responsibility is completely yours.
That's interesting, because I thought that she wasn't the one responsible for dismissing people.
Could rent him a room.
You?
I'd be glad to, but I'm positive Mrs. Shellhammer wouldn't like it. We always have martinis before dinner. I'll make them double strength.
I mean, Mrs. Walker could. Even though she does have a gentleman caller.
And I'll call you as soon as my wife's past feeling
What sort of games do you play with the other children?
I don't play much with them. They play silly games. Like today, they were in the basement playing zoo and all of them were animals.
In order to play it, you've got to have an imagination. You know what the imagination is?
Oh, sure, that's when you see things, but they're not really there.
Well, that can be caused by other things, too.
Yeah, that can be, but
The imagination is a place all by itself. How would you like to be able to make snowballs in the summertime?
I get what he's trying to do, and I think it's okay for children to, play with play with the imagination and have imagination and stuff like that. Because to me, she's just being realistic, too realistic. It needs to learn how to have a little bit of fun.
You tell him you're a monkey. We're just having our first lesson in pretending.
If you'd like to move in with me, I'd be only too happy to have you.
Well, that's awfully nice of you.
You could ride to and from work every day with Mrs. Walker and...
Yes. Give me a chance to really talk things over with her.
What does he mean by that?
Made the martinis triple strength, and she feels wonderful. Here, I bet.
She's intoxicated.
Hello! Why, we'd love to have Santa Claus come and stay with us. I think it would be simply charming.
And she's not going to remember any of this.
But I'm going to stay with Mr. Gailey.
Mr. Gailey?
Mr. Gailey.
I think I'd better get the meat.
Yeah. She's not happy with that response because of I didn't see that coming. And I should have.
That's what I want for Christmas. A real house. If you're really Santa Claus, you can get it for me. And if you can't, you're only a nice man with a white beard, like Mother said.
Now, wait a minute, Susie. Just because every child can't get his wish, that doesn't mean there isn't a Santa Claus.
That's what I thought you'd say.
Yeah.
Some children wish for things they couldn't possibly use, like real locomotives or B-29s.
What's a B-29? I'm going to look that up.
Do with a house like this?
Live in it with my mother.
I think it's an aircraft.
Well, it's a tall order, but I'll do my best.
How's this going to work?
Well, someday I'd like to get a place on Long Island. Not a big house, just one of those junior partner deals around Manhasset.
I know just the kind of place you mean. One of those little colonial houses. Those two are a couple of lost souls, and it's up to us to help them. I'll take care of Susie if you'll take care of her mother.
It's a deal. I'm going to find the answer to a question that's puzzled the world for centuries.
What's that?
Does Santa Claus sleep with his whiskers outside or in?
Always sleep with them out.
Every shopper in New York City suddenly thinks of Macy as a benevolent soul, thinking only of the welfare of the public. And what does that make Gimble? Nothing but a profiteering money grubber. Well, two can play at this game. From now on, if we haven't got what the customer wants, send him back to Macy.
Doesn't your mother ever sing to you at night?
Why should she?
To market, to buy a fat pig. Home again, jiggity jig. To market, to buy a fat hog. Home again, jiggity.
I remember the song.
Do you happen to have a spare piece? Well, here goes.
And they cut away. I would actually like to see it. My guess is that the theater can't actually do it.
Something is wrong. What is it?
Remember I was telling you how I like to play Santa Claus over at the Y on Christmas and give out packages to the young kids?
Yeah.
Well, I was telling that to Mr. Sawyer, see, and do it because when they was young, they must have did something bad, and they feel guilty about it. So now they do something they think is good to make up for it, see? It's what he calls a guilt complex.
No.
It's a lot of rubbish, Alfred. Don't listen to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't listen to him.
What's the basis of this guilt complex you're supposed to have? Does he say that?
Well, he ain't found out yet.
Or you didn't ask him.
Maybe something that happened to me when I was a baby, he says.
Okay, you did. You did ask him.
Oh, he don't soak me nothing, He's doing it for free because I'm an interesting case.
No.
I like the way. I like you said the way you said that. Yes.
Just that I hate my father. I didn't know it, but he says I do.
A few things have just come into my head, and I'm going to say them.
He's gonna go pick a fight.
You have no more right to analyze Alfred than a dentist has to remove a gallbladder. Either you stop analyzing Alfred, or I go straight to Mr. Macy.
Are you going to leave?
Yes.
Yes. Whack.
But the moment I mentioned Santa Claus, the moment I attacked his delusion, he became violent. In view of this, it's possible his condition has changed. And you better have the examination right away before he tells before Mr. Macy finds out.
You explain to Mr. Cringle. After all, you're a friend of his.
I won't do it. I can't do it.
And who's gonna do it?
You better get him out of the store on some other pretext.
I don't trust him with Santa Claus.
Mrs. Walker wanted me to tell you that we're going to take some publicity pictures this afternoon down at the City Hall. You and the mayor.
Good. Oh, but I'd made an appointment with Mr. Macy at 4 o'clock. Want to tell him about something.
Where to? Bellevue.
Bellevue.
They're not gonna murder Santa Claus, right?
Did she know about this?
No.
Yes.
Well, sort of. She's kind of sort of. She sort of knows about it.
Why, yes, we share an apartment together. Bellevue.
Yes, in view of his examination, I'm afraid I shall have to recommend commitment.
You deliberately failed that examination, didn't you?
I had a feeling Doris was beginning to believe in me. And now I find out she was only just humoring me all the time.
She didn't know anything about that taking pictures with the mayor. That was Sawyer's idea.
Well, I'm glad of that. She had doubts. That's why she was just sorry. If you'd been dragged off here instead of me, she wouldn't have been sorry. She'd have been furious.
All right, she had doubts.
There's Mr. Sawyer. He's contemptible, dishonest, selfish, deceitful, vicious. If that's normal, I don't want it. That's why I answered the questions incorrectly.
But, Chris, you can't just think of yourself. What happens to you matters to a lot of other people.
Right.
Susie, who are just beginning to. You can't quit. You can't let them down.
You're right. I ought to be ashamed of myself. Even if we can't win, we can go down swinging. Let's get out of here.
How's that gonna work?
You're forgetting you flunked your examination.
I believe you're the greatest lawyer since Darrow.
Yeah, how would you get him out?
I'll do everything I can.
How would you go about getting him out?
Now, you get the case dropped tomorrow, or you might have another lump to match the one that Chris gave you.
Yes, Mr. Macy. Cringle's lawyer probably grabbed the case to get some cheap publicity. Publicity? Oh, we can't have that, Mr. Mara.
I'm a little bit lost. So he's trying to save face from publicity.
You know, if I'm going to win this case, I'm going to have public opinion and plenty of it. And publicity's just the way to do it.
That is true.
How about a great big kiss for Grandpa, A fine way to treat their grandfather. No hug, no kiss, no anything.
I don't blame them. Any man who puts Santa Claus on trial for lunacy.
Before you begin, Mr. Mara, I want to explain to the witness that this is a hearing, not a trial. You don't have to answer any questions against your wishes or even testify at all. Oh, I'll be glad to answer any question that I can.
Yeah, that's probably not the brightest idea.
Where do you live? That's what this hearing will decide.
Very true.
You believe that you're Santa Claus?
Of course. Do you wish to cross-examine the witness? I believe he was employed to play Santa Claus. Perhaps he didn't understand the question correctly. Oh, I understood the question perfectly, Your Honor.
You're not helping your case.
No further questions at this time.
That's kind of what that looked like.
All these complicated tests and reports boil down to this. Mr. Cringle is not sane because he believes himself to be Santa Claus.
Anyone who thinks he's Santa Claus is not sane.
Not necessarily. You believe yourself to be Judge Harper. Yet no one questions your sanity because you are Judge Harper.
Mr. Cringle is the subject of this hearing.
Yes, Your Honor. And if he is the person he believes himself to be, just as you are, then he's just as sane.
Granted, but he isn't.
Oh, but he is, Your Honor. I intend to prove that Mr. Cringle is Santa Claus.
I really like the expressions on the faces, especially The judge, he's got such an expressive face, it seems.
But you can't possibly prove that he's Santa Claus.
Why not? You saw Macy and Gimbel shaking hands. That wasn't possible either, but it happened. Defense I can use completely logical and completely unexpected.
And completely idiotic.
Either I drop this impossible case immediately, or they will drop me.
See?
I beat 'em to it. I quit. And I promise you, if you believe in me and have faith in me, everything will...
That's...
You don't have any faith in me, do you?
You hear that?
It's not a question of faith, it's just common sense.
She's too logical.
Faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to. Oh. Don't you see, it's not just Chris that's on trial, it's everything he stands for. It's kindness
Fred.
and joy and love and all the other intangibles.
Oh, Fred, you're talking like a child. You don't get ahead that way.
That all depends on what you call getting ahead. Evidently, you and I have different definitions.
She's more realistic, he's more idealistic. They can make it work. It's just going to take work to actually do it.
These reporters make me look like a sadistic monster who likes to drown cats and tear the wings off butterflies. Wish I'd never gotten into this. Cringle has been declared a menace to society by competent doctors. And it's my duty to protect the state of New York and see that he's put away.
Yeah, but you're the one that started this.
Your name?
R.H. Macy.
You are the owner of one of the biggest department stores in New York City? Your employee, is he not?
Yes.
Do you really believe that this man is Santa Claus?
I do.
That was kind of interesting, the way they showed his memories and stuff. Very interesting way of doing it.
Ridiculous, irrelevant, and immaterial. There is no such person as Santa Claus, and everybody knows it.
Your Honor, I submit it's purely a matter of opinion. Can Mr. Mara offer any proof that there is no Santa Claus?
No, and I do not intend to.
He's now ruling on what testimony I may introduce.
Your Honor, we request an immediate ruling from this court. Is there or is there not a Santa Claus?
But if you go back in there and rule that there's no Santa Claus, why, we won't even be able to put you in the primaries.
How can I seriously rule that there is a Santa Claus?
You go back and tell him that the New York State Supreme Court rules there's no Santa Claus. It's all over the papers. They're going to say it with votes. You go on back in there and tell them that you rule there's no Santa Claus. Go on. But if you do, remember this. You can count on getting just 2 votes, your own and that district attorney's out there.
The question of Santa Claus seems to be largely a matter of opinion. Many people firmly believe in him. Others do not. We should hear evidence on either side.
Your Honor, the burden of proof for this ridiculous contention clearly rests with my opponent. Can he produce any evidence to support his views?
If Your Honor please, I can. Do you believe in Santa Claus, Tommy?
Sure I do.
What does he look like?
There he is, sitting there.
Why are you so sure there's a Santa Claus?
Because my daddy told me so. My daddy wouldn't tell me anything that wasn't so. Would you, Dad?
Your Honor, the state of New York concedes the existence of Santa Claus. But in so conceding, we ask that Mr. Gailey cease presenting personal opinion as evidence. The state could bring in hundreds of witnesses with opposite opinions. I therefore request that Mr. Gailey now submit authoritative proof that Mr. Cringle is the one and only Santa Claus.
Affirmative to that? I missed that word.
Mr. Gailey, are you prepared to show that Mr. Cringle is Santa Claus on the basis of competent authority?
I ask for an adjournment until tomorrow.
The court stands adjourned till tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock.
But we've been through this. How are they going to prove that Santa Claus is real?
You see, they're having, well, sort of a trial about him, just because he says he's Santa Claus.
But I've got a feeling he is Santa Claus, Mother.
Some people don't believe that.
Then I'm going to write him a letter right now and cheer him up.
I think it's I believe in you too. Cursive is not my strong suit, guys.
Hey, Lou, how many Santa Claus letters we got down at the dead letter office?
I don't know. There must be about 50,000 of them.
Load them with all that Santa Claus mail and deliver it to Mr. Cringle down at the courthouse.
Isn't that illegal? I would imagine that would be illegal on so many fronts.
The defense has yet to offer one concrete piece of evidence to substantiate this preposterous claim.
Not one competent, authoritative proof that this man is Santa Claus. Sign the commitment papers without further delay.
And wait a minute. The letters are going to help Santa Claus accentuate the claim that he is Santa Claus.
It concerns the Post Office Department, an official agency of the United States government. Furthermore, the United States postal laws and regulations make it a criminal offense to willfully misdirect mail or intentionally deliver it to the wrong party.
That's what I was afraid of right there.
I have here 3 letters. They're addressed simply Santa Claus. No other address whatsoever. Yet these letters have just now been delivered to Mr. Kringle by bona fide employees of the post office.
But 3 letters, Your Honor, are hardly positive proof.
I have further exhibits, Your Honor, but I hesitate to produce them.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be very happy to see them.
Yes. Produce them, Mr. Gailey. Put them here on my desk.
1 second. Keep bringing them in. Keep bringing them in.
Every one of these letters is addressed to Santa Claus. The post office has delivered them. Therefore, the Post Office Department, a branch of the federal government, recognizes this man, Kris Kringle, to be the one and only Santa Claus.
Since the United States government declares this man to be Santa Claus, this court will not dispute it. Case dismissed.
Thank you so much, Your Honor, and a very Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kringle, and the same to you. I got your note. It made me very happy. It's Christmas Eve.
Yeah, he's got to fly around the world. That's what I was trying to say right before they have that conversation. And is shouldn't even be gone and dropping off presents and that sort of thing.
Chris, all I can say is the state Supreme Court declared you to be Santa Claus, and personally and professionally, I agree with them.
I don't suppose you even want to talk to me.
I'm sorry, Susie. I tried my best, but...
You couldn't get it because you're not Santa Claus, that's why. You're just a nice old man with whiskers, like my mother said. And I shouldn't have believed you.
Wow, that hurt.
You must have faith in him.
But he didn't get me that doesn't make sense, Mommy.
Faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to.
Huh?
That makes sense to me.
You mean it's like, if at first you don't succeed, try.
Yes.
I believe. It's silly, but I...
It's silly, but I believe.
Stop, Uncle Fred, stop!
Susie! Susie!
This is my house, Mommy. The one I asked Mr.
Now,
Kringle for.
Susie.
You still got to believe, and I kept believing, and you were right, Mommy.
You told her that? The sign outside said it's for sale. We can't let her down.
Do you don't have money to buy it?
I never really doubted you. It was just my silly common sense.
It even makes sense to believe in me now. I must be a pretty good lawyer. I'd take a little old man and legally prove to the world that he's Santa Claus.
Kane.
Must have been left here by the people that moved out.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so that was the Miracle on 34th Street. I gotta say, I liked it a lot. It was kind of interesting to just have Santa Claus. You didn't have any of the other stuff that you typically have with the stuff associated with Santa Claus, like Mrs. Claus or elves or anything like that. And it was just basically trying to prove that he was the actual real Santa, or at least that's what it turned into at the beginning, which is kind of interesting in itself of how we actually got the setup of that, because to my knowledge, up to a certain point, they wanted to do an examination, but to me, there wasn't enough evidence to support that the public needed him to do the examination to see if he was Santa Claus. It was mainly due to the mother. That turned into basically the state of New York wanting him to keep doing tests and, this, that, the other, all just because she had more realistic expectations about life. That just seemed to come out of nowhere for them to want to do examinations on him when he wasn't like announcing that he was Santa Claus, the real Santa Claus to the public, really. It didn't seem like that. It didn't seem like he was announcing it to the world. He might have said a few things to, a few other people, but I don't think those words exactly came out of his mouth exactly. So for me, it just seemed like it came out of left field. The other part of this is the whole Macy sales thing. I really like that. I wonder if they've actually used that sales tactic before. If you can't get it from us, then we'll send you to a different store that has it. Might actually be a real sales tactic. I like Mr. Sawyer. I like the guy who played him. I felt that he was kind of perfect for the role of being kind of bad guy, and I feel sorry for Alfred because he went to Mr. Sawyer, but Mr. Sawyer just kind of manipulates people into believing what he wants them to believe, and that's not okay, and that's not right. And we even find out that he possibly doesn't have um real credentials, which is very, very bad and something that you could possibly go to jail for. It was never really confirmed whether or not he actually had credentials. In fact, we don't even know what really happened to Mr. Sawyer, um, if he ever did get his license taken away or anything like that, because we never follow back up with Alfred and kind of his situation when he tells Santa all this stuff about what he's been telling Mr. Sawyer. And so that's kind of interesting. I would have liked to seen a little bit more conclusion to that. I really like Susie because it's really believable to me that kids follow what their parents tell them and who they model themselves after. So if the parent is really realistic in this, just like in this case, then the child's going to be really realistic and not as idealistic as Fred was. Now it's kind of interesting in itself to have that kind of pairing. Uh, and it's something that they're gonna have to work on if they have a relationship and all that stuff. At the end of the movie, the mother kind of directs Susie in the right direction and says, "Hey, it's okay to believe in Santa Claus and to have faith and um that kind of thing." And I like that she put it in terms that Susie could understand. I like the fact that Fred was a lawyer and he was willing to quit his job and be fired from his job so that he could take this case for Mr. Kringle all the way up to the New York Supreme Court. And basically, the ruling was Santa Claus exists because if he doesn't exist, then we basically are at fault and we could basically go to prison for that. I'm simplifying that, but that's basically the gist of that. Um, which I did know that, opening somebody else's mail is considered a federal crime and you could actually go to jail for it. I believe it's a federal crime. I believe that's what they said. Um, and that if they willfully know that it's going to the wrong place, they can go to jail as well. So I really like that, and that's what makes um, the determination that Santa Claus is real. Because if he doesn't exist, then they are willfully committing a crime. And I loved how that was wrapped up in the movie, and that everyone got what they wanted. I was kind of hoping as I was editing it, not when I was watching it, but when I was editing it, that um that they didn't get everything that they wanted. Susie didn't get the house that she wanted, um, and that sort of thing. Just because, you know, in life, even though we want something and we work really hard to get it, we don't always get that thing that we want. and that's a life lesson that can be taught through cinema or any other type of medium. But I'm glad that it ended the way that it did. I'm just saying that to add another lesson into this movie, they could have uh, taught another lesson on top of it. But I understand why they didn't do that because they already taught so many lessons with the mother and the daughter. Now that I'm thinking about this, I'm actually happy with the way that it ended. So I kind of take back what I just said about um me wishing that it ended differently when thinking about the character development of the mother and um Susan. All right, guys, I think that's everything that I wanted to cover in this video. If there's something that I missed that I didn't talk about that you guys wanted me to kind of go over and talk about, we can talk about that in the comments below. If there's something that I missed, um so do let me know down in the comments if there's something that I missed that I should have talked about in this video, and maybe we can have a discussion down in the comments below. But other than that, guys, that's all I got for you in this video. Do consider like, commenting, and subscribing, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you, guys.